folks. Hi guys, how are you? Hopefully I'm going to set this up so you can see my little food prep area. Welcome. I have a very, very tiny kitchen. I'm going to shift this back just a little bit. Teach me tofu. I'm gonna try. I know it's one of those super scary things to play with, so my head will be probably cut off a little bit here, but that's okay. And I will try to read comments, but my phone's on countertop so you can actually see me working. I've got a bunch of ingredients out. I did not do a whole lot of prep for this. This has kind of been in my mind, but a little bit of a last minute Periscope, and a lot of people have been asking me about eating vegan. My most often asked question is, you know, I can't stand that tofu stuff. What do you do with that? And yeah, cooking instead of pottery. The vegan potter, I do both. So thanks for joining in. I figured a little food demo might be nice. So I figured it's a Sunday afternoon, I'm home. I want to get on Periscope and see what you guys are up to on Sunday, and let's talk about food. Let's talk about tofu. So there's several different types of tofu that you can get in the store. I choose extra firm. That's the most important thing if you're wanting to eat it in a capacity that's in a dish and you don't want it to be loose. As a lot of people complain about the texture of it, and for me, I'm a huge texture person in pottery and in food. It has to have the right texture or I don't want to eat it. So this is a nice complement to a salad. You can eat it cold once it's cooked. I mean, you can eat tofu cold at any time because technically it's raw. You have been plant-based for 4 years and desperate for good new recipes. Yeah, awesome. And this is something, I believe this recipe is up on my blog. You can find that at theveganpotter.com. I do blog posts, and I usually post a recipe up every time I post a blog. So you can check there, but if it's not, I'll look after this is over, and anything I don't say I'll post in a blog post later on this afternoon or tomorrow. So you can find it there. So you don't have to take copious notes, you can just watch. So anyways, I choose the extra firm tofu. I like the texture of it much better. It also comes in silken. That's good for smoothies, for puddings, for pies, for cakes, that kind of thing. The silken is really the softer version. So anyways, if you're up for it, we'll see what happens today. And I've just got you my countertop. I will be bringing this to the stove, and this shouldn't be that long of a demo, so I won't take up much of your afternoon. So like I said, I'm using this extra firm tofu. I've got 2 packages of it. I don't do anything small, even though it's just me and my fiance. I cook food for 3 or 4 people typically because I like leftovers. I love leftovers. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna marinate this tofu, and I'm not gonna marinate it for an hour or 2 hours or overnight in the fridge. I'm just gonna throw the marinade together, throw it on the tofu, and chuck it in the oven. It works just as well. I've tried it both ways. I don't have time to wait today. I want my lunch. So these are the ingredients I'm gonna use. I'm gonna use some orange juice, some maple syrup, a little bit of smoked paprika, some sesame oil, and some liquid aminos. So liquid aminos, if you don't or haven't tried this product, it's a great product. It is vegetable protein from soybeans, so it is a soy-based product. You can certainly substitute this for a soy sauce, a low sodium soy sauce, a tamari even. It's really just adding a salt element for me. So, and then I've also got some fresh pepper. And I actually found, and I'm always looking for interesting ingredients, this is a balsamic vinegar and it's maple flavored. Someone gave this to us. You don't need it, but I figured, oh, I'll try the balsamic maple. Where to buy this? Any local olive oil and vinegar shop, specialty store. All the other stuff you can find in the regular grocery store. My Stop and Shop carries the liquid aminos. You don't have to search around for that. And all the rest of these ingredients are super basic, so you can find them anywhere. The other thing I like to use quite often is a mason jar. This is just a quick and easy way to shake shit up, really. So that's what we're gonna do. I don't measure stuff. I learned how to cook from my mother and my father. They didn't really cook much from recipes. It was more by taste and sight and stuff like that. So I will try to estimate for you, but really I just want to fill this jar up to about 2/3 so that it spreads out nice over my... Oh, you can't hear me. try tuning out and tuning back in. That happened to me the other day when I was looking at a scope. Can everyone else hear? Just shoot me a yes or no if the rest of you can hear. Okay, so Laura, sign out and sign back in. Of course, now you can't hear me saying that. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, good, better now. Oh, good, okay, perfect. Hopefully I'm not gonna make too much noise on the counter rattling things around. So I'm gonna go ahead and shake up my orange juice and just pour some of that in. If you don't have orange juice, you could certainly substitute any other citrus, just a little bit of lime or lemon juice. I haven't used orange in a while. And this is just, again, going to sweeten things up, give a little bit of acid, and help to bring out the other flavors. So I don't know, that's probably a half a cup. Well, I can actually measure on here, milliliters. Yeah, it's about a half a cup, maybe 2/3. I'll do a couple of tablespoons of the liquid aminos. And this doesn't look pretty, guys, so sorry about that. It's just gonna look like a funny concoction. I'll do a couple tablespoons of sesame oil, maybe one more. I really like the sesame oil. It adds a nice nutty flavor, but you could use any kind of oil. You wanna make sure that it's okay at high heat, so olive oil I don't really recommend for doing at high heat because I'm gonna roast this at 400 degrees. My oven's already preheating. So we're gonna go over to the maple syrup. Oh, this is a brand new container. I'll have to open that guy up. I usually try to use local syrup as much as possible. Same thing with, you know, anything you can buy local, it's better to buy local, but this is a store-bought because I forgot to grab some local that we sell at my gift shop when I was there last. So I'll probably do just a couple of tablespoons, maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. You don't want to throw too much in there, it'll be sweet. You can use tofu for a dessert, but that's not what we're working on today. And then I'm going to throw some of this maple balsamic in, which I probably also should have opened before I started this demo. Let's see if we can crack this guy. Never use a knife facing you, always use a knife facing away from you, especially when you're a potter cooking in the kitchen. Gotta have these hands. I'm always super careful with kitchen gadgets and knives and things like that because I'm always thinking about my hands. So are you guys who are watching, are you eating vegan food already? Have you tried tofu? What kind of tofu have you tried? What's your experience been? Shoot me a little comment. Let's have a discussion while we're prepping this marinade. I like to smell things. So the vinegar will add a little bit of acid as well. Can't lock into visual or sound live. My slow internet will watch later. Okay, sorry about that, Kathleen. Yeah, no problem. You're under no obligation to watch. Meat eater here, but very curious. Awesome. Not a lot of tofu. Yeah, it's a nice thing to complement. You know, I'm probably gonna throw this maybe over some rice for dinner or maybe even in a salad in a couple of days. I'm gonna roast up some carrots as well. No tofu, yeah. So this is probably maybe a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. I like the smoke just because you get that extra punch with a little bit of earthy flavor in there. I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about, and I really don't. I just like food. So I just play and experiment. Throw a little bit of pepper. I also try to work pretty clean in my tiny little kitchen here. I don't have much more counter space than you can see. That was probably a half a teaspoon of pepper. And you know, you can spike it up with anything you want. I've got some garlic Cholula here. I'm gonna throw some of that in just because I like a little spice, and so does the man. Just a couple of teaspoons maybe. Some Cholula. Midwesterner, raised on meat, gotta relearn all my cooking skills. Totally worth it. Yeah, I mean, we all have different diets, right? So omnivores are just as awesome as vegans, are just as awesome as, you know, diehard meat eaters. My family is based in omnivore world for sure. I was not raised as a vegan. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this just to loosen up the strength of the orange juice. Feeling great, no guilt. Good for you. That's awesome. I have a water filter on my sink, so I use water directly from there. And I'm gonna throw the lid on this and then just shake. So anybody else tried tofu? What's your experience with it? Did you hate it? Did you have it in a restaurant? I've had it lots of different ways. Thanks for sharing, Mom. So this basic recipe, I've just played around with. I've seen it in different books and different cookbooks, and there's tons of vegan cookbooks out there. Really, really great ones. I've been eating this way for 20 years, so there was nobody to show me the ropes. And the cookbooks 20 years ago were not what they are now. Love to eat it, never prepared it. Oh, awesome. Well, try it this way. It's really, really easy. So now I've got my marinade prepared. I'm gonna set that aside. And probably should have done my tofu first, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to do tofu. Let me turn my cutting board around so you can see a little bit better. There we go. So I just use a dishcloth. This is a thin dishcloth, clean obviously, not one that I've just used hanging on the stove. And this is what I'm going to use to press. Now, there's controversy over pressing tofu in terms of, do you have to do it? Do you not have to do it? I've done it both ways. I like quick and easy recipes. I don't have a lot of time to wait around and prepare stuff ahead of time. I'm usually hungry and I want to eat right away. So I'm going to simply drain the water out of these packages first by just making a little slit and letting the water pour into the sink. And afterwards, I'm going to make slices. Now, I've done this both ways. Just give it a little press, a little squeeze. So they come packed in water and they just come looking like blocks. Some of them have a little, extra layer, but typically you get a nice block. So I just turn it over onto my dishcloth and do the other one as well. So tofu is really just soybeans. They're just pressed, shelled and pressed and compacted. And so it's a flavorless product, really. I mean, it doesn't taste like anything. You have to do something with it to get it to taste good or palatable. I mean, if you're like me and you've eaten it for years, then you might just grab a chunk and throw it in a salad and let the salad dressing be what flavors it for you, but it's nice to give it a little bit of flavor. So I'm gonna get a knife and I'm gonna come back and hopefully you guys can see this. Getting bad glitchy connection, might not be able to hang. Oh, I'm sorry about that. So it's, yes, extra firm tofu, extra firm. Yeah, not silky. Definitely not silky. So I like to cut this. I'm going to try to get 4. Maybe I'll do it this way. It'll be easier for you to see. So I'm cutting these slices about 1/4 of an inch thick. Can you guys see okay? Hopefully. The light in my kitchen is pretty terrible too. There we go. Cool. I'm gonna stick this in the container for now so I can go back to this guy. So now what I'm gonna do with this cloth is I'm just gonna lay out my slices. A little space in between them. I'm going to fold the cloth over. I'm going to lay a second layer. I've done this with paper towels, but I don't like wasting paper towels. Being a true vegan, I'm earth conscious as well, so I'm going to go ahead and slice this other section and just keep building this stack layered in between with the cloth. This is a quick, easy way that I have found to press. You don't have to have, they sell all kinds of kitchen gadgets, right? And I love kitchen gadgets, but you do not have to have a fancy kitchen gadget to do anything special in your kitchen. You can use your 2 hands just like you use to make pottery. I'm gonna do one last layer. And typically it works out well with the cloth because I've got the top layer to go ahead and press down. So you make a little origami stack of your tofu and your towel. And then I just press. I do this on my cutting board. It's not so much water that it drips out everywhere. It's totally fine. This is partly why I like to use a kitchen cloth because it's way more absorbent than paper towel and you can just throw the damn thing in the laundry. Super easy. So just give a little press. Now, a lot of people will do this and they'll put weights on it and they'll do that while they're making their marinade. I've seen it done that way. I honestly don't find much of a difference in terms of the cook time or the end result as far as the tofu and its consistency or texture at all. So as you can see, it just looks a little bit more dry. No big change, major changes. I'm gonna grab a pan I'm going to start to just lay my tofu in a layer in the pan. Just one layer with a little space in between. I'll probably need to use 2 pans. I typically do when I do 2 chunks of tofu. These little doodads in there. And this is a tiny pan because I have a tiny oven. Everything is tiny in my kitchen. Someday I plan on having my dream kitchen and doing actual cooking classes, vegan cooking classes, probably live on Periscope still, but also live in person in my home. That's a dream in the future. So, you know, it takes a while sometimes. I'm gonna cut one of these just in half to just fit in between to take up all the space in my pan. And for the sake of today, we almost fit 2 full containers. Thanks for the hearts. I'm just 3 shy, so I'll set these aside for now just for today's purposes. So you don't have to watch me do things twice. Clean up my surface, toss this in the laundry later. And I'll go back to do my marinade. One thing about small kitchens is there's not a lot of walking around, so give this one more shake, mixed it up. If you tuned in late, go back and watch the replay for the marinade. It's pretty simple, just about 5 or 6 ingredients, and you can totally change this up. I would call this like a sesame maple marinade, and I did a little orange juice in there too. Sesame citrus maybe, I don't know. It smells really good, I can tell you that. So I'm gonna just pour some of this across the top. And you do want it to sit in a layer of marinade so that the bottom gets coated. I've done recipes like this and I've skimped, you know, sometimes when you're not measuring things, you end up skimping. Now I just know I get a mason jar, I gotta have it a little bit more than halfway full to be happy with my end result. And it's as simple as that. So you can see up close, just laid my marinade. There's enough marinade in there where it's liquidy, and it's coating the bottom of that tofu as well. So what I'm gonna do now is stick this guy in the oven. My oven is preheated to about 400 degrees. You make vegan look so good. Well, I'm glad you think this looks good so far. Your hearts match the marinade. Yeah, they do, that's awesome. That's awesome, Michael, welcome. So I'm gonna stick this in my tiny oven. It's preheated to about 400 degrees, and I am gonna let that cook probably about anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes on one side. Set your timer on the low side for 20 minutes, check it. What happens is the tofu starts to dry out in the oven and it starts to absorb some of that marinade. And so you're gonna wanna flip it over and you're gonna wanna baste it. Again, that's why we have extra marinade in the jar. So, and you just cook it until it's no longer flopsy-wopsy. It's not supposed to be floppy. It will be definitely firmed up so that when you cut it, hey, how are you? Hey, Paul, happy birthday, Paul Blaze. Thanks for tuning in. When you cut up that tofu when it comes out of the oven, it should not be floppy. It should be much more stiff. And if you let it sit in the fridge overnight, it'll stiffen up even a little bit more. So I would say consistency-wise, it's more like a tempeh, if you've used tempeh when it comes out. Yeah, and you can freeze it for sure. That totally changes the consistency. Like I said earlier, there's lots of different ways that you can prep tofu. So I figured today I would just give you a quick, yeah, I know you want to see this, Paul Blaze. Try some tofu, birthday tofu. So I'm gonna let this cook for about 20 minutes to a half an hour. And I'm going to check it, I'm going to baste it again, I'm going to take it back out of the oven after another 20 minutes, so it's probably a 40-minute cook time, if not a little bit more. I have grilled it, but currently I don't have a situation where I have a grill accessible. Do a Periscope when it's done. Okay, yeah, I can definitely do that. I'll tune in to show you guys what it looks like when it's done, so you can look for both Periscopes later on my feed. So you can find me at theveganpotter.com. I have a blog. I'm also a potter. If you've tuned in just because of the food, you can check out some of my other scopes. And I've got a YouTube channel, The Vegan Potter, as well. And you can find me on Instagram at The Vegan Potter. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Thanks so much for tuning in. Impromptu little vegan cooking day. Hopefully I'll do this a little bit more on the weekends. Give me some feedback. Give me a shout out. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for all the hearts. Love you guys. See you soon.